everyone, welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and welcome back to our new Colour and Chat series for 2021. We are working in The Beauty of Horror, the original volume by Alan Robert, and we're going to continue on today with our page here, which possibly involves a kraken. Now we are going to be concentrating on this background area today, and we're going to do a sort of stormy, cloudy, moody background. But before we get to that, I just wanted to show you what I'm going to do with this area around the outside. Now in the last video I talked about making this a black border so that I could have some sort of multicoloured bubbles here on the outside. Just to make it pop a little bit. So you can see I've done my homework down the bottom. I finish off my waves. And I just want to give you a quick demonstration of how I'm going to blend the black pencil both into the colour that's there, but also how I'm going to fade it out round this outside edge. So I've got my black Prismacolor pencil. I'm working it all in Prismacolors today. It's looking a bit sad here, so I do have a pencil extender. These are the Derwent pencil extenders, and the Prismacolors fit into the black ones, but you do have to kind of like force them in and make sure that's tightened up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start as I always would, and I just want to put a very light layer of black pencil down. So I'm just going to start here. Here's as good a place as any. So really light pressure, and I'm using a very, very small circular motion. So I'm really going for this scumbling technique is what its proper name is. And I'm just working my way in between these bubbles, and I want to do that for the entire section. Now this will be quite time consuming, and this is the reason that I'm showing you this here. I'm not going to do this whole border on camera. That would be a very boring video. I just wanted to show you the technique that I'm using, and I'll do this off camera in my spare time. So when it comes to the outside edge, I'm just coming past those bubbles and no more. So it's like maybe half a centimetre, maybe not even. I want to do a big enough section here to show you the kind of effect that I'm going to be going for. I'm probably going to have to crack out a new black Prismacolor pencil by the time I'm finished this. Because I want to think of this in terms of almost like a gradient. So I want to go pale to dark to the colour. So the best thing that I find to do is to start your second layer in the middle. So obviously in this instance it's a bit unfortunate because there's bubbles in the way, but I want to put that second layer down. Now the idea is that we'll have this band of really, really dark black by the time we're finished. So I'm going to take that second layer now towards the colour, and I am literally just going to blend it in. So I'm going just over the edge of where the colour starts. So I am actually colouring into the blues and the purples here, but only very slightly, and it's just to make sure that this is all joined up. Now don't press hard when you're doing this. You want to use lots of lighter layers because that's going to give you much, much deeper colour. Or in this case, a much, much blacker black. And the good thing about this as well is because we've got these bubbles, you can break it down into a section at a time. You're not going to have to do great big sections all in one go. So this is the kind of exercise whereby I will leave this book open in a place that I walk past all the time. And for me, that is our table, our kitchen table. Obviously working farm, a lot of things go on at the table. If I leave it open and just leave the pencil there, every time I'm walking past, I'll just stop and colour in another little section. And I'll have it done in no time. So I'm bringing this down now. And when I get to effectively where that last row of bubbles is on this outside edge here, that's when I want to start thinking about fading this out. Now it's a very similar technique to that of what I used, that I used for one of the last pages in Enchanted Forest, and I did do a video on that, so I'll find that video and I'll link it in the description in the end card because it's a bit more comprehensive in terms of fading out pencil like this. So as we're working out towards the outer part of the ring, we just want to lighten up our pencil pressure, and each time we go we want to just make sure that by the time we get the furthest away from this ring that the pencil is hardly touching the paper. But we do want it gradual, so once we've got that down, now you can see that's just coming out with and no more. When I go in for my next layer, I'm just going to go back over, same pressure, and as I'm working out I'm going to stop slightly short of where I stopped last time, and that's what gives this very, very gradual fade out. And the trick to this is not to be tempted to press down hard on your pencil, because that's when you effectively ruin it. Now this goes back to what I said in the first video about trying to keep the darker purples and blues towards this edge, because that then becomes much more seamless. You know, it's not obvious that I've gone straight into black. It is very gradual and it's quite a subtle effect, but it's a good one. When we're doing this as well, I do feel like we're going to have to keep our black Prismacolor pencil really sharp here. If you are using a different brand of pencil, I imagine you'll have an easier time, but these are very, very soft. So we tend to lose our point fairly quickly, and when you're trying to squeeze in between all these little bubbly gaps, that can be quite time consuming. Okay, so let's go back up here now. So again, starting in this middle section, I've got a nice bit there where I can kind of get going with my pencil a wee bit. So put that second layer down in the middle first, and then I can work back the way towards the centre of the picture. Again, really tight little circles when I'm doing this, and it is my sort of preferred technique when I'm colouring anyway, but it's especially helpful here because it helps you get quick coverage, but also gives you that precision to work in between all your little spaces. And then as I'm coming down here, you can see I'm letting up the pressure and it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Maybe put another layer on there and then stop that second layer just short of where I stopped the first one, just to fade it out a little bit. And this is one of those things you can be really pernickety about it and you can sit for ages, you know, just sort of touching it up. I would say don't sweat it too much. It is just the border of your picture. It is not the focal point, so don't agonise too much over it. It's not going to be immediately noticeable. Okay, so that's that little section done. I'll do another section now just so that you can see better, and then we'll zoom out and we can have a look at it, you know, in terms of the picture as a whole. So there's a line of bubbles down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if you include that one. So that's a pretty good place to stop. So just getting that first layer down. And I'm just taking it to the edge of these bubbles to begin with, the outside edge. I've got this cheeky wee bit in here as well. I'll start working my way out. So in farming news, we are well into calving now. We started calving the first week in January and there are calves popping out everywhere. We have a very special little member of the cave clan just now. We have a calf who has been named Flopsie. And she has been named Flopsie because she has she's got a damaged ear and it kind of hangs down slightly, and it's floppy, funnily enough. And Flopsie's story is that she was a twin and her mother rejected her and favoured her sibling. And quite often in that situation it can get quite ugly, and Flopsie's mother decided that she didn't like her and she started to hurt her. She was kicking her and stamping on her and just generally trying to push her away so that the other twin could get in. So we managed to get to her. Now, you do not want to get in the way of an angry cow that has just given birth, but sometimes you have to. Thankfully, it was Mr. Jem that did that. And when we got to Flopsie, we realised that the mother had really hurt her. So we got the vet out and she's broken her leg. Everything else seems to be okay. Her ribs and all her internal organs and everything are fine. But we have had to put her leg in a cast and remove her, obviously, from the pen with the mother. So Flopsie is she's actually in one of the dog kennels. We have lots of dog kennels, and they tend to be multi-purpose. We use them for lots of things, not just dogs. And in this case, we have a Flopsie. So she's got a little nameplate above the door, and she has a nice straw bed in the inside portion of the kennel, and we are bottle feeding her. Now, when you have a calf that you bottle feed, they become friendly really quickly, but you tend to make a friend for life. So, although it's a very sad circumstance, she's mending well, and because she's exclusively getting bottle fed, she's getting plump really quickly. Now, being a twin, cows kind of struggle with multiples. They're not really built to have multiples. And she was very small when she came out, so she's growing really quickly, but her belly's growing as well. So she's doing absolutely a-okay. But when you go out first thing in the morning, I was feeding her not long after I got up, so maybe 7 o'clock. And because it's been snowing and icy, when you walk across the yard in the pitch black in the morning, she can hear your boots crunching on the snow and the ice, and you can hear her mooing from inside her little shed, because we shut her in the covered over part at night time just now because of the weather. And you could just hear this little moo floating out. She's like, I'm hungry, come and feed me. So she's hilarious, but she's turning into quite a little character. But she's only got another... It'll be less than 2 weeks until she gets her cast off. So when that comes off, we can put her back in the population with like other calves her age, but she'll still need bottle fed. But she's so used to it now that when she sees us coming, she runs towards us like, oh, you're going to feed me. So that's not really going to be a problem, and we're just splitting it between us. There's Mr. Jem, and we have 3 boys here that do work for us as well, but we also have our one of our workers is our neighbour. They stay in the house across the yard from us, and his girlfriend as well. She's quite happy. She enjoys that kind of thing. So when you're doing 4 feeds a day, it's good to have that many people that want to do it. It means we all don't have to do it all of the time. So that's it'll work out okay. But she's adorable. She's such a sweet little thing. Okay, there we go. That's that section finished. So I'm just going to zoom out now. So you can see in the context of the entire picture, those little bubble circles pop out so much just because we've given that a black background. So that's going to look really, really nice all the way around. And if we put some colour in these little circles, then it's going to look pretty good. So I will be continuing with that, as I said, in my sort of spare time, and we'll get that done eventually. So as we go through these videos, you might see another section done every time we come back to the book. But let's move on now and talk about what we're really here for, which is doing a stormy sky background. Alright, so for our background, we need to think about, first of all, a base colour and what we're trying to achieve here. So I want to tie in some of the colours from down here, and I'm going to start with the indigo pencil and also the slate grey pencil as well. So to get things kicked off, we're going to take the slate grey, and we are just going to get down our, surprise, surprise, our first layer. I'm going to start from this side. Just being left-handed, it is easier for me to work right to left. So this is really just a very, very light base coat, so there's nothing exciting going on here. I do this in all my colouring videos, and you're probably a little bit fed up of me talking about it. Now I can bring this as far into these bubbles as I like, because we're going to be using black in there, so that just gives us something to blend into for the time being. So let's just get a move on here and get this all sorted out. So as I've been saying for a number of months now, things are very quiet here in terms of my personal life, shall we say. There's not an awful lot of exciting things going on, just because we are still in a national lockdown. So it is essential travel only. You're told to stay at home as much as possible. Naturally, for me, that's not really a big deal because I spend most of my time at home anyway, obviously working from home and the farm and one thing and another. The weather has been, it's starting to become a problem now. The day that I'm filming this, we're in the middle of a sort of 10-day stretch of bad weather, and it hasn't become, we're not apocalyptic yet, but it is snowing an awful lot and it's very windy, and it just makes things sort of relatively unpleasant. But what's happening is the temperature is rising during the day to above freezing, so we're getting snow during the day, and then it's dropping down well below freezing at night. Some nights we're down to -6, -7 degrees Celsius, which is bloody freezing for want of a better phrase. We're not really used to temperatures like that, then with the wind chill on top of it. And what's happening is all the snow that's come down is freezing, so when we get up in the morning, the place is like an ice rink. So yeah, it's not great for moving about. There's several people have slipped and fallen on their backside, so we've got a few bruised bum bones kicking about, and Mr. Jem also slid his truck. He had cattle in a trailer in the back of it, and he came into the yard, and the trailer went sidewards and swung round and hit his pickup and put a dirty great big dent in it. The cows were fine. They got a bit of a fright because they were sliding, but They were all okay, no injuries or anything. It's just Mr. Jem's poor truck and probably a little bit of his pride that's injured. So we're trying to be very careful. The grit's not really doing anything because if we put it down in the ground, it is a dirt yard, so it's just kind of like soaking into the earth. But we're trying to keep it as safe as possible without any major disasters. So we're very much housebound, but something that we have learned in amongst all of this, and it's a bit unfortunate, some of you will know that Jock has got quite severe skin allergies. He's a very itchy dog, and there's a lot of factors that set him off. Certain foodstuffs, dust, the weather, change of seasons. He's very, very itchy as well, and also stressful situations make his skin break out too. So we've been having problems with his paws. He's been chewing his paws recently and like the sort of lower part of his feet, which is something he's never done. Now he's nearly 9, so you would expect that something like that wouldn't, there wouldn't be a lot of new things. But it transpires between myself and our vet, who's absolutely stumped because he's had skin scrapes and everything done, and he doesn't have any sort of like fungal infections or anything like that. We finally figured out what it is. It's the snow. So my dog is actually allergic to snow. When we go out, the days that the weather's not been bad, I'm trying to get him and Pip out as much as possible because they're collies and unfortunately they still have a lot of energy that needs expended. So as long as the weather hasn't been too bad, I've been taking them out, and after a run of days, that was when Jock started to chew his feet. Now, we had a little reprieve for a few days and we'd thawed out a little bit. And in those 3 days, Jock magically just stopped touching his feet and they weren't red or anything like that. So what the vet thinks is because he has very sensitive skin, the temperature and the fact that obviously if you're out for a walk, you're going to be out for, an hour at a time or whatever. And because he's running about in it, it's just basically flaring up his skin because he's sensitive to it. So I suppose it's like sticking your hand in a really cold ice bath for an hour and not expecting to have, some sort of soreness when you pull it back out. So we're having to invest in a pair of waterproof booties for him. Well, it'll be 2 pairs because it's all 4 feet. So that's the next adventure. But if it lets him run about in the snow and he can get exercise, and as long as he's happy to have them on his feet, which I don't know whether he will be or not, then that's just what we have to do. And this is the thing about having dogs, especially having older dogs. People think it's a great idea getting a dog and, let's get a puppy. But you forget that, they do sort of gather up ailments and things as they go along, especially for a dog like Jock, who's been a working dog. He's had a bit of a harder life than some of our pampered pooches. And unfortunately, he's just one of those dogs that's got allergies. So yeah, that's the next adventure. So once they haven't arrived yet, but once he's got his little shoes, if he's happy with them on, I shall take a photograph and share it with you all because I'm sure you're all just going to love that because Jock's a sweetheart. But even the act of, because we had shampoo for him just to kind of like soothe his feet, the vet had given us that, and the act of having to shampoo them because you have to dampen their feet and then shampoo them, and it's got to stay on for like 15-20 minutes. And then after that, you're supposed to wash it all off and then leave them to dry. The act of going through that every couple of days was actually stressing Jock out and it was flaring his skin up. He really doesn't like it when you start doing it. But once you're actually massaging the shampoo and he lies down and shuts his eyes. So I think he quite enjoys it. It's more the prospect of it than the actual action. But as I said to the vet, it's kind of counterproductive, if I'm soothing his feet, but it's stressing him out and it's flaring up his skin, we're kind of making, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. So, but I'm glad we figured it out now because I was beginning to worry about it slightly and I thought I'm just going to end up with like one big itchy, miserable, scabby dog. And if we can avoid having to pump him full of steroids, I'd like that very much. It doesn't matter so much with a dog of Jock's age. It is known that long-term steroid use can cause kidney problems and it basically reduces the lifespan of your pet. Now for a young animal, i.e. when Jock first started getting, really itchy, that wasn't an option for us, and we've had him on loads of expensive drugs that aren't steroids and all the rest of it, just to, to sort of counterbalance that. But it wouldn't be the end of the world now. At nearly 9 years old for a working dog, you know, it's not going to chop that much off his life that it's, you know, it's going to be very detrimental to him. But it's still something that you want to avoid if you can. So I'm glad we figured it out, because I really don't want to go down the steroid route if I can help it. So far so good. But see, never a dull moment. We keep saying though, especially, you know, Jock just seems to have got a lot older all of a sudden, and we keep joking that Woo's going to outlive him, because she's still trundling along, deaf as a post, can't see very well, but other than that, she's actually pretty fit and healthy. And she's just diddling along, doing her thing, sleeping a lot, and, you know, getting up and playing when she feels like it, and then eating, and then go back to sleep. So... But yeah, that's just the way things go. I still don't feel like we've had Jock for such a long time though. I still think of him as quite a young dog. And then I remember that we bought him in 2012, and he was 15 months at that point. So, you know, time's gone. He's still my baby boy though, and he'll always be my baby boy. But he's just quite a grey baby boy now. But anyway, he seems quite happy in himself now that his feet aren't so itchy. He is a bit perkier, and he's wanting to play with Pip a bit more, and he's just generally a bit bouncier, even though we're stuck in the house, but he's doing okay. So the last few days we have been employing one of my favourite tricks, and it's quite a precarious one for me particularly, is we have the Kong toys. So they're the ones that they've got, they look like a bit like a cylindrical, you know, they're like a kind of pyramid shape, and there's a big hole in one end. And you can put dog treats in them, and you can let the dogs rattle them about. But what I do is I plug the hole with peanut butter and put them in the freezer. Now, I'm allergic to nuts, so me dealing with peanut butter is not, you know, it's not the safest of pursuits, but it's not a severe nut allergy I've got. You know, it's if I breathe in nut fumes, I'm not going to die or anything. But I do put gloves on and put the treats in the freezer for them. And they keep them occupied for a surprising amount of time. So that's been a lot of that. Puzzle toys as well, that's the other one just now. We've got a variety of puzzle toys. So I bring them out, and I've got them on rotation so they don't get bored with them. And then after I've finished my proper job, and I've done what I need to do with YouTube, I sit on the floor in the sunroom with them for an hour, and we, you know, throw the ball and play and just kind of like have a carry on the floor. So keeping them occupied as best I can. What is happening now though is we can't get out to walk them on a hard surface because there's nowhere to do it. Everything's soft with snow, and all the dogs' nails are getting really long, and we've never had to clip the collie's nails ever. Obviously we've always had to clip the Jack Russell's nails, but that's because there's not enough weight in her body to wear down her claws if she was walking on tarmac, you know, or, you know, pavement or whatever. But we've never had to do it with the collies, and their nails are getting really long. So as soon as the snow clears up, I'm going to take them for a mega walk. You know, I'm going to go for like 3 hours or something and just walk them, try and wear their nails down a bit. I think Pip would let me clip hers. Jock absolutely would die if we tried to do his. It's all these funny little side effects of the weather as well that you just don't think about. I was interrupted by the doorbell there. I've lost my train of thought now. I was talking about the dog's nails, wasn't I? I don't know where I was going after that. Anyway, we're nearly finished this little section here, so that's fine. With this first layer of pencil as well, we don't need to worry about it being too even, because it's going to be layered up with other pencils too, but we just want to get that first layer of colour down, and then we can really get into a bit more of the exciting stuff. So what I want to do is try and plan a little bit here. So I want to think about the placement of a few things that I want to add into the background. Now I know some of you aren't very confident with backgrounds, and that's why I felt like it would be a good idea to do this. Thinking about a stormy sky, I definitely want some clouds. And the way the boat's sitting, you know, it's at this sort of angle. I kind of want the clouds to follow that, but I don't want it to take up the whole picture. So just with a normal pencil, like an HB or whatever it is you've got, I just want to pop in a section very roughly here of where I want my clouds to be. I just want to start working with these pencils now and building up these layers and making it look, for want of a better phrase, a bit more cloudy. So I've got the indigo blue here, and I'm going to start here And what I want to do is just put in some like contour type lines and get some shape into our clouds. So there's no real right or wrong way to do this. It's just a case of deciding what shape you want your clouds to be and really using this pencil as a sort of indicator of where things are going. So maybe have it come up like this. I always kind of struggle with this because I struggle to keep things random. You'd think that would be the easy part. No, it's not. So what we do need to do when we're thinking about doing clouds like this, we want to keep the edges soft. There should be no harsh edges. We want all the colours to sort of transfer into each other fairly softly to keep that idea that it is a set of clouds or one big cloud or whichever way you would like to look at it. So I'm just going to start a section at a time here. We'll start over here and I'm just going to go back over the part that I've done. Okay, so I've got the slate grey pencil here as well, and I'm just going to work that into the indigo and then work down towards where my pencil line is. And just fade that out, the same way as we did with the black pencil down the bottom earlier. So I'm just working with this one section, and I'm going to do the same up the top as well. I'm going to bring some of this up around here, and I'm going to leave some white patches as well because you will still see, well technically it's not white because we've got the slate grey down, but you know what I mean. I'm only going to leave that one area of pencil in some spots, and then I can go back in with this indigo. And this is really, there's no sort of technical method to this. It's just a case of deciding what you want where and build up the colour accordingly. So you can see there I'm just popping in a little bit more of this indigo pencil now. And then I can meander my way up towards maybe another line. So I've got this section here. And again, I'll just feather that out of the edge a little bit. So other stuff that's going on with the cave, you'll have seen the update video by now, so you'll know that I am stocking Julia's handmade watercolour paint dots, you know, the little tester dots. I'm stocking them in the stash shop now, so they are readily available, and because Julia's a nice person, we will have a regular stock of that. So even if they all disappear really quickly, which obviously I'm filming this in advance, so I don't know whether they have or they haven't, but they will be available regularly. So it's not like the used art supplies where they're just going to disappear and you'll never see them again, which is nice. That's always nice for us. So that's pretty cool. The other thing that's happened as well is I now have my form to fill in for the Scottish Government for my grant for the internet upgrade that I've been hoping for, and that form basically lets the telecoms company organise an installation date, so that is exciting. So it is definitely happening. I was kind of reserving judgment a bit because it all just felt a little bit too good to be true, if I was honest, and I didn't want to get my hopes up too much because I'm generally not that lucky with things, just in the rural sense, you know, we tend to be kind of last for everything. So I'm super stoked that that's happening, like I'm really excited about it. So I'm looking now towards the bits and pieces that I am going to need to do a bit of live streaming. Now, one thing that I will need to do is buy a new webcam, because it's not something, especially not an HD webcam, it's not something that I possess. So I'm looking at getting one of those for our live streams so that you all have to put up with my ugly mug as well as my constant chatter, which I'm sure you're all really looking forward to. So we're in the process of looking at that, and I have started looking at streaming software and just kind of getting to grips with that. That's another learning curve, and I've had to do a lot of that. I talked a little bit about this at Christmas actually, when I did the Cavemas video, the Q&A questions, the Q&A session even, about the learning curve that's associated with technology when you decide it's a good idea to be a YouTuber. And it kind of frazzled my brain for a wee while, if I'm honest, because it was so much to learn all at once. And obviously in all of that as well, I'm still trying to improve my art all the time. So you're constantly learning stuff about the subject that you're filming. You have to learn stuff about filming, of which I knew nothing about before I started. And then you've got all your editing software, and then on top of that you've got the hardware, so your microphones and your cameras, etc. And can be quite overwhelming. And I'm not a technophobe by any stretch of the imagination. I would like to think that I'm fairly competent in that department. But there comes a point when you've got so much going on all at once, it can just become a little bit too much. Now, thankfully for me, my brother is a total tech nut. He always has the newest and fanciest version of whatever. To name a technological device, and my brother will have the newest one of it. He's the kind of guy that changes his TV every 3 months. So he is actually really helpful. If I ask him a question, I will get a million answers as to what I should be doing, what I could do. So I'm kind of hoping, I haven't actually asked him officially, and I don't know if he's going to watch this video or not. Sometimes he watches my videos, sometimes he doesn't. I haven't actually asked him officially if he will help me. Maybe I should be doing that. Kevin, if you're watching this, lend a hand to your sister. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm not, I just want to get to grips with it and get familiar with it before I start launching into, oh yeah, let's do some live streams, because I don't actually know what I'm doing. So they're doing a little bit of homework in that just now, but yeah, it's just another one of those things. But I'm really excited about live streaming. That's going to be good fun. If it proves to be quite popular, I think I may stream on Twitch a few evenings a week. But that's something for a lot later on, and those videos won't go to YouTube. They will stay on Twitch, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes and what our speeds are like, etc. Kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit there, but that would be kind of cool, and I can envisage it being mostly colouring and sketching. I don't think I'll be doing anything spectacular, because it's really nice to take an opportunity, because streams tend to be a lot longer than a standard YouTube video. If you're working on, say, a colouring page, you can really get into it and you can accomplish quite a lot as well. So that's kind of my thinking behind that. And hopefully we would be able to, we would get like a fair amount done, which would be kind of cool. So yeah, that's where my wee brain's at with that. But I am excited. See, even just uploading videos for YouTube, it's going to be so much faster. So much faster. And I'm just, I can't wait. I'm going to be so happy. I'm going to be such a happy little camper. Imagine not having to wait like 2.5 hours for a video to upload. Oh, it's amazing. And the other thing as well is, see, when I am uploading videos, if I do it in the evening, Mr. Jem can't watch Netflix because our internet can't cope with trying to upload a video and stream something at the same time. It just doesn't happen. So it's going to improve things for him drastically as well, which he's really happy about. Forever shouting through from the cave, like, don't put Netflix on, and he's like, oh, okay. I feel for him, I really do, especially because he works really long hours, and comes in. Sometimes he just wants to veg out on the sofa and, watch something, and I'm like screaming at him, you can't do that, I'm busy. I'm like, oh. Sad state of affairs, tell you. The sacrifices you make for being in a rural area. And that's one of many. The internet thing now, it is a big bugbear, because even in the farming community, and like normally with technology, the farming community, we tend to be like 10 years behind the rest of the world, and the technology takes a long time to filter through. But even now, a lot of the tools that we use to manage herds and data is all cloud-based, and it's all app-based. So for a lot of farmers, they don't necessarily have a good mobile signal where they are, again, just being in a rural sort of out the way area. So it's imperative that we do have good internet connections, and we just don't. So although the apps have caught up and everything, unfortunately the technology to facilitate that isn't always there, which is quite disappointing actually, and it's very, very frustrating as well. So this couldn't come quick enough. But I mean, farting about with like 3 meg internet speed, like, and that's on a good day. That's not fun for anyone, even just a casual internet user. It's not good at all. It's really, really not. So I'm hoping that all my prayers will have been answered. Fix me. So you can see our clouds starting to come along now. It does look quite cheery still, but don't worry, we'll make it look angrier. We've got to do this very gradually, do it in layers so that we can keep everything nice and soft and blended together just the way we want it. I can hear this really strange noise in the background and I couldn't figure out what it was, but Pip's taken one of the Kongs. You know, I was talking about the peanut butter earlier, and she's taken it away through to one of the other rooms, and I can hear her trying to get to the remnants in at the back, and it's just her tongue like flicking off the side of it. It's like, what a strange noise. It sounded like a tap dripping or something, but it's her flicking her tongue like a lizard. Oh dear. At least it's keeping her occupied though, and she does seem really happy about this prospect, so we'll just leave her. Okay, I think I'm happy with my cloud shapes. That looks fairly cloudy to me, but I say they're just a bit too cheery for my liking. Now the temptation here is to go in with a black pencil. Now if you're brave and you want to do that, you can, but I tend to find that things get muddied quite quickly if you go down that route. So there's two pencils that I want to pick up now. So the first one is Cool Grey 70. And the second one, which is going to probably confuse y'all slightly, is this bad boy, Lemon Yellow. Okay, I know what you're thinking. You're like, what's she doing with my yellow pencil? I want to have a thunderbolt, and I was kind of, there's this lovely gap here, and I thought that's the perfect place to deal with that. So to facilitate that, we're going to use the yellow for that. I'm not going to put the yellow all in the clouds. But what we do want to do is I want to map out. I want to put the thunderbolt in first. So I'm going to, we could have it in white, but, you know, that's not really that much fun. So I'm just going to go for it with this yellow pencil. I'm going to have it coming all the way down here. I did think about doing this in another medium, but I don't think it's worthwhile. So basically, I'm just going to have lots of forks coming off it here. And this is going to cause a reflection as well, so this is why I wanted to keep this for the clouds. So immediately where it's coming from, there's going to be yellow in there. And it's probably stemmed from up in here somewhere. So we're going to pop a little bit of that in there as well. Maybe in here. Well, interruption number 3 dealt with. It's going to be one of those days today, I can tell. Right, so I've got the 70%, where are we? 70% Cool Grey. And all I want to do now is start darkening down these clouds a considerable amount. And I'm just going to run a layer of this over more or less everything. And I'm going to kind of like vary my pencil pressure here, just so that we get that nice variation in the different sections of the clouds. And I'm bringing that right down to where my pencil line was. Well, is. I say was like it's not there anymore, it's still there. And in the sections that I've left paler, I'm going to try and avoid them because I do want them to still be a thing. So you can see there that's starting to look a bit moodier, that's what we're after. Nothing better than a moody cloud. I'm incredibly hungry right now as well. I am just because of the chain of events today. Mr. Jem just came back there. That interruption was Mr. Jem. I haven't seen him since 6 o'clock this morning. And he was transporting heavy machinery, which is a great idea when it's snowing, obviously. Oh boy. And I was starting to get a little bit worried because I haven't heard from him since 6 o'clock this morning, and it's now it's 3:15 in the afternoon, and yeah, it transpires that his tractor broke down while he had a full load of things on a country road on a bend, obviously, because that's where it always happens. Thankfully he wasn't too far from where he was dropping said items off, so he was able to get someone to come and tow him to said location and call someone out to look at the tractor. He's quite handy. He will have a go at, you know, looking at things himself, but it was something that he couldn't fix, you know, there on the spot. So he's cold, he's wet, and he's very hungry. So just made him some coffee and gave him a bowl of soup and some fresh bread. So he's gone outside with his sandwich now because that's him happy. He's gone outside. He's got one of these one of these thermal cups full of coffee. So he's got that in one hand and a big fat sandwich in the other. And he's away back out on his merry way. Simple things. But yeah, he's been through the mill this morning. Poor guy. I've learned not to panic about these things though, just because he doesn't appear. Because he was supposed to be back about 11 o'clock this morning. And I've learned not to worry too much. If something drastic happens, someone else will phone me. And if something semi-drastic happens, Mr. Jem will phone me. So yeah, that's fine. It's absolutely fine. So this particular selection of clouds, I may well finish the rest of the background and decide that, you know, I want to do a little bit more, and that's absolutely fine. We want to leave ourselves the option to do that, but I just think that this is something that's well worth it. And it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's you're kind of like adding your own stamp to the actual picture as well. And that's what's really nice about colouring pages, and it's something that I always enjoy, you know, when I'm looking at other people's colouring pages, because what one person will do with this image will be entirely different to what another will do. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to take my black pencil, and the other colour that I'm going to take was the dark purple that we used down here, which is the dioxazine purple hue. And the same thing again, we just work that in certain places and blend it into what's already there. And this was one of the reasons why I wanted to use Prismacolor pencils for this, because I knew that the blending possibilities were going to be a little bit easier on us. And I'm picking fairly random spots here. I'm not being selective really. Right, so now I've got my black Prismacolor and I'm just going to add in some final sections. More so on this side because we don't have the lightning, but there will be parts where obviously there's a bit more contrast. And that's naturally going to lead us into these bubble sections again, which is perfect. And again, I'm just varying my pressure depending on, you know, what section I'm in, what I want to achieve here. I feel that this bit's too white, so I'm just going to go back with the slate grey here. I just want to tie a few areas together as well. So I'm just jumping back in with the pencils I was using and just tighten some of this up a little bit as I'm going. And I'm almost outlining the underside of these clouds. Just felt like some of my clouds have lost their shape a wee bit. Okay, so I've just got my yellow here. And I'm just going back over and I'm pressing really hard here, just in some of these areas. And the last thing I'm going to do with these clouds now is take the cool grey, and aside from the yellow areas, I'm just going to quick whip over everything, and it's just to really sort of blend these colours together a bit better. And then join these darker sections up too. Okay, fairly happy with that. That looks moody enough to me. So moving on to this background now. We've got the slate grey. Now this is just basically a labour of love. I am going to stick with this slate grey for this background colour. And I'm going to merge it into the 70% cool grey. So the 70% cool grey is going to be down in these bottom areas, and then the slate grey is going to be in the top. Now it is easier to do this in sections. So again, I'm going to start on this right hand side here, and I'm going to start with the grey down the bottom and just get that down there. Now bearing in mind we do already have a layer of the slate grey down underneath, so this should be a fairly even covering as long as you keep your pencil pressure quite steady. Again, off into those bubbles there. And it's better to use a slightly blunter pencil. You don't want to have like a pointy point for this, because all that's going to do is leave you with pencil marks on the page. So I have to decide where this gradient's going to be. And I'm kind of feeling that the grey should be like about here. So to this bubble roughly, and then over here somewhere. So just tiny little marks on the page there. And it's so that I know where to start blending. So I'll let up my pressure here a wee bit, and I can fade one pencil into the other. And I like to do those sections first, like I like to do the transitions first, before I start sort of commandeering the rest of the background, as it were. I'll just pop that in there. And it's quite an easy transition here because we're using two colours that have a lot of grey in them. Pip is now careering about the house with a toy in her mouth. This is what pent up energy does. She's just running around. She's got a little lap that she can run. There's like a few sets of doors that connect to each other. So if you leave them all open, she just runs in a circle. It's funny though, if you let her out into the garden, she runs laps of the garden, and I mean flat out. It's really funny to watch. Sometimes she carries a stick while she's doing it. She's funny. There's absolutely no chance of getting out today though. Absolutely none. The snow's actually, it's coming sidewards. It's not going up and down the way. So it's just not the weather to be out. I do later on, well I say later on, it's going to be just shortly, I do take them down to one of the sheds, and it's a shed that we store straw bales in, and I let them kind of run about in there for 20 minutes or so, just so that they can blow off some steam and they're covered over. But it's getting down there that's the problem just now, because it's very slippy and it is downhill. Okay, so that's looking all right there. Now I'm just penciling in this lightning really heavily, and it's going to kind of act as a resist, when I bump up against it with the darker pencils. It's going to make it easier for me to stop and not go over the top of it. Okay, so realised my camera had cut out there. Once again, ever the consummate professional. I'm still in here with the slate grey, and I'm just getting this section filled in. So what I figured I'd do, because I know we're kind of running long here on this video, is I was just going to finish off this section on the right hand side of the lightning bolt and then show you how I'm building it up to make it nice and rich, because these colours down here are super rich. Now we do want this part and obviously the main part of the image to pop out, so we don't want to be getting too crazy in the background, but we do want this to look as if it's finished, because right now obviously it doesn't look finished. So that is what we are going to do. But you can see how much that yellow stands out next to the slate grey, opposed to this side where they kind of sort of disappear into nothing. So there we go. So you can see there that transition is very, very subtle, it's very gradual, but that's exactly what we want. And all we need to do now is just go over everything again and just really get that nice, vibrant colour that Prismacolors are known for. So you don't want like mega pressure, but you can press a little bit harder this time now and really squish that pigment down into the paper. Make it worth our while. We might as well have fun while we're here. And this is the layer where I take a little bit more care going round all my nooks and crannies, my fiddly bits. It's quite funny, somebody mentioned the fiddly bits thing, and apparently that is a very UK thing. I don't know whether anybody in any other nations uses that phrase, but I just assumed it was quite a common turn of phrase, but apparently it's a British thing. Now when I say British, I mean Scottish, Irish, English, Welsh. Let's not get confused now. I just thought that was rather entertaining. It's funny how you make assumptions about things and you just don't think anything of it. So we're just working our way around here. This isn't very exciting. I'm sorry. But you guys are here. I know some of you are doing your own thing. I know some of you are doing your housework and you're just listening. Hi everyone that's not actually watching. But that's okay. That's kind of, if that's the way you want to entertain, then that's fine. There was somebody, I can't remember who it was now. In fact, there's two people, because one person I can remember who it was. But there was somebody that said that they use my videos to help them go to sleep at night, which I never thought would be a thing. I'll be perfectly truthful, I never thought that would be a thing. But I suppose the sort of calmer videos, the ones where I'm less excitable, like these colouring chats where I'm just kind of like droning on, I can imagine why that would put you to sleep. It's funny. Just as well I'm not easily offended, isn't it? Now, weirdly, I actually quite like the effect that the pencils made here. With these pencil strokes. And that's sort of lending itself to our lightning bolt here. So I might actually just take that as a happy accident. We'll see. But you can see the difference just in that outside edge there compared to what's going on everywhere else. That's a real thing. It is a thing. I might smooth this out with a little bit of blending medium, but I'm quite enjoying the texture actually. Kind of enjoying the fact that this background's just taking me on a wee adventure. That's kind of cool actually. See, now what's happening is I'm trying to even up this gradient that I've created in the band of the slate grey, so I need to make sure that that's consistent all the way across, or else it's going to look mighty stupid. I think I want to make this a little bit darker up in here though, but not much. Like just around these clouds. Yes, okay, that's me. I'm happy with that. That's good. Okay, so you kind of get the general idea of that. I think I'm going to leave it there for today, and I shall work away on this background. I'll probably not do all of it off camera. When we come back next time, I'll finish off whatever I haven't done, and I'll maybe have done a little bit more of this black border by then as well. So we can finish that off, and then I think we might start on some tentacles next time. That sounds like fun. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed my ramblings today. We got there eventually. I am going to go and take these dogs of mine OUT, see if I can find a corner for them in the shed to play in for half an hour. We'll see you next time back in the cave for another video. Have a good day, everyone, and bye for now.